happy in my school and my community. I was in the Glee Club with seniors at the time, and I was doing well in school. And at that time, we had very good, dedicated teachers who looked out for us, and they also knew our families. So, we were disciplined pretty tightly because our teachers, although they did not live in the community, they were part of the community by virtue of their standing as teachers and administrators.
So let's get into more about when you were bused to the white schools and schools began to get integrated. Talk a little about that.
Well, for me, that happened in 1966. We were told that we would be bused to white schools that were less actually than 5 miles away, very close. At that point, I had finished junior high school, which at that time went from 7th to 9th grade. And when I was entering senior high school in 1966, I entered it at Dundalk Senior High School, which at that time we were the first class to start an integrated school. Personally, I was sorry to see that happen.
Why were you sorry to see that happen?
Well, because I had such a good experience at a segregated school, and I felt more at home in the segregated school. It was what I was accustomed to, and all of my friends, were there, some of my older friends. So it was a very different experience. And when I started at the integrated school, we were bused to the school, and it was predominantly a white school in a white community. And I have to say, I felt somewhat ill at ease starting there, and I had a sense of frustration because it wasn't where I wanted to be. I never really, I enjoyed my years there, but I never actually became part of the school. I didn't participate in any extracurricular activities. It was more just going to school and going home. And although I did make new friends, new Caucasian friends, it somehow just wasn't the same.
How did the blacks interact with the whites? Was it any animosity, any negativity, or was the change pretty smooth?
The change was actually very smooth. Some people got very involved in extracurricular activities, and I cannot recall any incidences of racial violence or remarks. At that age, we were, I suppose, more open to something like this. But no, there weren't any incidents that stand out in my mind. As a matter of fact, we all bonded around the fact that our basketball team was built of black and Caucasians, and they won a state championship during my time at Dundalk Senior. So I think that had a lot to do with bringing us together, as well as other situations where we interacted, like proms, assemblies. So, and I suppose it was very, very carefully scripted too. Some of the activities that we had the privilege to do. As I look back on it now, I'm sure that was part of it. There was a lot going on in the background to help us to be more comfortable in an integrated school, because it just wasn't blacks going to a white school. Whites also had to get adjusted to us being there.
You said the school was your old school was a tightly knitted school into the community. How did the community feel about their kids being bused and integrated with white kids?
I believe the community resented it. I resented it and I believe the community resented it because it took something away from them that they'd always had. They'd always had a school, and now they didn't. So they resented it and wanted to know why whites couldn't be bused to a black school. Over time, it became the norm and it was accepted, but initially, yeah, there were feelings of resentment in the community because we felt like we'd lost a part of the fabric of the community.
What was one of your experiences, your first experience you had in school with a Caucasian classmate?
That would be with Peggy Ruiz. Peggy was a Latina and probably a second or third generation Latina, and she was very friendly. I, at the time, was very shy and not very social, and she befriended me, and she was popular in school, so I became somewhat popular and cool, I guess. And she was my first real friend there. And I also had a very good relationship with a teacher by the name of, oddly, Jim Jones. I was in honors English, and he presented me with quite a few challenges, and I think that was a good experience for me.
So overall, you would say that at first you resented the fact about being bused to white schools, but then as you went on, you accepted it and glad it happened.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't have any choice but to accept it, but yeah, I think that would be an accurate description. I resented it at first, but over time, I could see the benefits, and I developed friendships, and we essentially, after 3 years there, I graduated in 1969, we blended together and we saw beyond the color of our skin, and we were open to making it work. And I think for the most part, we did make it work.
With no animosity, no differences? There had to be some differences.
And, there probably were. I didn't experience any of them, and I didn't see any of them. But I'm sure there were some racial incidences. I'm just not aware of them. And fortunately, I didn't experience any of them.
That's good.
It was good in the end. I could see the benefit of what they did and why they did it. And the school that I used to go to in the community fought to have it it became a technical school, and it was still being used years after I left. And they lobbied to have the original name, Solars Point, put back on the school, and they did. So
the teachers didn't look at you any different type of way. They didn't say, "Oh, you're African American, we're not going to do this," or there wasn't any difference of treating between the classmates?
No, not in my experience. I said, like I was telling you, the experience with Mr. Jones, my honors English teacher. He was just a wonderful man who really challenged his students and loved what he was doing. It was obvious. There may have been some perceived prejudice by some students, and I think that came mostly from their resentment about being there. But I never had any negative experiences that I can speak of. So it was more, I think, an adjustment that we all had to go through. And I think by the time I graduated in 1969, we had blended rather well together. And we were proud to be attending Dundalk Senior. So it turned out to be a good thing, I think, for me.
Right, it seems like it. Well, we thank you for your time and appreciate your information.
You're quite welcome. Thanks for asking me about that.
This now concludes the interview of Roberta Gray.